The biggest dream my mom had for me as a child was that I would grow up to become a smart receptionist at the hotel she gave 30 years of her life to, cleaning and making beds. How wonderful she thought it would be to see me behind the shiny marble counter, dressed in crisp cotton shirts and suits, smiling, talking eye to eye with the white folks, fluent in a language that landed big jobs. But my auntie, she knew that dreams didn't have to spring from within our horizons, that if we could ride the wind with seats and thousand more and it still not be the end of it. So she taught me how to dream, to close my eyes to the elusive horizons and open them instead to the inner world of endless potentials. She told us that the dreams we saw there when laid out in the physical world will pass through a lot of new places, where we meet a lot of new people, and it almost always passed through schools and a lot of books. When I first started going to school, though, they spoke to me in a tongue I did not understand. And I used to cry so much, my teachers sent me off to my sister's class. And I stuck to her like Velcro, looked up to her like she was the sky. Ujjwala, my name means brightness. Lujala, hers, meant the first light. And she was always the first. The firstborn, the first in a class, and the first to finish her homework. So sometimes I made her do mine. But my auntie, when she first found out about this, she made us sit, both of us down on her bed, made my sister erase every single word she'd written on my notebook, then calmly handed me the pencil. As I did my homework late into that night, my sister sound asleep by my side, the imprints of her handwriting still fresh on my notebook. My auntie washed over me like a guiding angel, offering me help and warm hugs. That night, she taught me integrity, patience, and kindness, lessons that last me a lifetime, lessons I'd learned with love. I also learned from my auntie the joy in creating beauty. I watched her sew, knit, cook, sing, paint, dance, and talk passionately about the lyrical poetry in old Hindi songs. No wonder I caught her creative bug, and how it would leap over rainbows every time I saw her coming home, and I couldn't wait to read to her the latest of my stories and my poems, and she would listen to me with such excitement and applaud like it was the best thing she heard. I grew up in love with telling stories. I grew up in love with words. And so, as I journeyed my way into journalism, a serendipitous love letter in form of a press release called me out to a spoken word workshop. Met people there as poetry struck as I was. Together, we called ourselves the Word Warriors. With words as our weapons, we waged wars against injustice, raised flags of feminism, and called out from the margins. In our classrooms, brimming with laughter and tears, we were learning and teaching empathy. We were learning and teaching respect and love. In one of these classrooms, I met Regina, whose poetry spoke of her struggles of growing up with an alcoholic father, of relatives bent on getting her to quit school so she'd be less of a burden. Her poetry was her rebellion, where she could shout out to them that she could be so much more than they ever imagined. But when this brave young girl told me that she was afraid, that she was bound to fail, I told her not to worry, that she was as bright as the sun in the sky. I found out she didn't even know what the words meant, or that the sky was spelled S-K-Y. 13 years of school, and this language of opportunities would lost to her. I was afraid that the opportunities would be lost too. That no matter how hard she tried to stretch her horizons, her strength would only get her as far as the scorching skies of Dubai and Qatar, where so many young boys and girls like her handed over their passports and their lives to the grinds of modern-day slavery. What good was my poetry, I thought? what good was poetry at all if it could not stop the people I'd come to love from falling into the cracks again, the abysmal traps of poverty? If I could do nothing but feel helpless as the horizons came crashing in on me, like I was a black hole, breathing in all this chaos, not knowing what to do with it, not knowing what to do at all, because what can one person do? But my auntie, the biggest lesson I learned from her is that one person can make all the difference. Look what she's made of me.